Pokémon Mystery Dungeon is the greatest spin-off video game series of all time. Developed by Spike Chunsoft as an adaptation on classic roguelike games of Pokémon characters, the Mystery Dungeon video games are a beloved masterpiece of a series that I hold dear to my heart. What if you woke up one day and you were transformed into a Pokémon? What if all of a sudden you find yourself in a new world where you can speak to and interact with other Pokémon, journey with your friends on remarkable adventures and save the world? In this video, we will review 4 Mystery Dungeon games: Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team, Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky, Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity, and Pokémon Super Mystery Dungeon. The Mystery Dungeon series is the only Pokémon spin-off to have games released as pairs with version exclusives similar to the core series games. The first iteration of the Pokémon Mystery Dungeon formula featured Red Rescue Team, which was released on the Game Boy Advance, and Blue Rescue Team, which was released on the Nintendo DS. These games are virtually identical with minor differences. The successors to these games were also a matched pair of Pokémon games on the DS, Explorers of Time and Explorers of Darkness. Similar to how Pokémon Emerald was an improved version of Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, and to how Pokémon Platinum was a definitive superior version to Pokémon Diamond and Pearl, Chunsoft released the third installment known as Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. The next 2 games I will discuss, Gates to Infinity and Pokémon Super Mystery Dungeon, are both standalone solitary games instead of the matched pair release model, which I like. You don't need to sell the same game twice. Nonetheless, the Pokémon Mystery Dungeon games are games that I love and have replayed to death. Let's talk about what makes these games so magical. I have fond memories of playing Red Rescue Team using a Game Boy Advance emulator on my mom's iPad during the summer holidays. Being the first game of the series, Red Rescue Team lays the groundwork of the Pokémon Mystery Dungeon formula and the story beats for the future installments. We start with a personality quiz that determines which Pokémon species you play as. You meet your partner Pokémon, explaining that you have no memory of being a human. One eventful thing leads to another, and before you know it, you're off rescuing other Pokémon and going on many adventures. Pokémon sprite art is captivating and appealing with an art style that ages well. The emotions of each Pokémon character in the story is visibly apparent, with various expressions to communicate how they are feeling. The turning point in the story is when Xatu explains that the cause of the recent natural disasters is because of the world's balance being upset. This seems to be linked to a human turning into a Pokémon. If the world's balance is not restored, it would mean the world's destruction. In Amidst the Disasters, Wishcash recounts the story of the Ninetales legend, where anyone foolish enough to touch a tail would be cursed for 1,000 years. And there was a human that was foolish enough to touch a tail. As one might expect, the human that grabbed the tail was subjected to a 1,000-year curse. But just as the curse was cast, a Pokémon named Gardevoir shielded the human and sacrificed herself to absorb the curse. Taking pity on the Gardevoir, Ninetales asked the human this: "Do you wish to save Gardevoir?" it asked. But the human had already abandoned Gardevoir and fled. Disillusioned with the human, Ninetales made this prediction: that human will one day be reborn as a Pokémon, and when the human becomes a Pokémon, the world's balance will be upset. And that is how the Ninetales legend ends. In the town square, Gengar explains to the townsfolk using deductive reasoning that if the world's balance is being upset by a human becoming a Pokémon, then if that human is gone, then everything should return to normal. Since that human is a rotten coward that abandoned Gardevoir, he said that the human can't complain about anything if we get rid of it, namely being the player character. Meanwhile, the player character has had recurring dreams of Gardevoir and doesn't remember what they were like as a human being, so they couldn't refute Gengar's accusations. Team Act comes in to eliminate the player character in hopes of stopping the natural disasters, but gives him mercy. I love the Fugitive arc. It's a really emotional, romantic, and dangerous journey where it's just you and your partner alone escaping while the whole world is out against you. The NPC dialogue changes with the story, and it's really funny seeing the NPCs sleeping sprites as you prepare for exile. Regarding boss battles, you can cheese them with multi-hit moves like Double Slap. Barring multi-hit moves, you can link your moves to get a similar effect. Don't get me started on how overpowered the move Attract is in making your opponents infatuated and unable to do anything, or spamming smokescreen so that the bosses have no accuracy and misses all their moves. After a long, arduous and harrowing journey, you finally meet Ninetales to get the truth of the matter. Are we the heartless human who abandoned Gardevoir? Are we really the cause of the calamities affecting the world? Turns out that although Ninetales' tale is true, we are not the human that appears in the legend, which means the other rescue teams like Team Act had set out to eliminate the player character on false pretense. The cause of the natural calamities is not linked to the human becoming a Pokémon. Even if they eliminated the player character, the natural disasters would have persisted. We are cleared of suspicion, and our bro Pelipper helps spread the news to combat misinformation. Xatu alerts the town about the incoming meteor as a real cause of the natural calamities crashing down to cause the world's destruction. Notably, there is another human that turned into a Pokémon, Gengar. One night, Gengar messes with the player character using Dream Eater, only to be stopped by a light coming to visit the player. This light being Gardevoir, acting as a messenger for the player character in their dreams. Gardevoir explains that the player came to stop the meteor and save the Pokémon world. Once you're done with that task, you will go back to being a human, which means leaving and parting ways with your partner. Because there are encounters, there are also farewells. Gardevoir talks about how she too once had a friend beyond value. Keeping in mind while all this plot is being explained, Gengar is looking into this dream after trying to mess with the player. Gardevoir states, "Truly, I cherished our friendship. But my friend has gone away. It fills me with sadness still, losing my friend. But we will meet again. That is what I believe. All that remains in the stream is a feeling of sadness." That Pokémon, Gengar, ran off crying. A Ghost-type Pokémon, aka Gengar, helped Xatu and Alakazam create the Teleport Gem to send a player character and a partner into the Sky Tower. Without Gengar's help in creating the Teleport Gem, the player wouldn't have been able to reach Rayquaza up in the sky to prevent a meteor's collision. The Gengar redemption story is only completed in the post-game. Gengar wants to see Ninetales, and we learn that Gengar is the human that grabbed Ninetales' tail. Gengar confronts Ninetales to lift the curse that they put on Gardevoir, but Ninetales explains that they cannot, and instead leads Gengar to break the seal with a nine-tailed crest in Murky Cave. Gardevoir became a presence without a physical form because she bore the curse meant for Gengar. But even then, Gardevoir never stopped caring for Gengar. Having learned that, Gengar now wants to save Gardevoir. However, until now, Gengar has forgotten entirely about Gardevoir. Is that not asking for too much? Regardless of how you answer the disembodied voice in Murky Cave, it is only with Gengar's sense of gratitude that the curse on Gardevoir was broken. Gardevoir knows that her curse has been lifted, however, has lost their memories relating to Gengar. I think it's heartwarming how Gardevoir said that she believed that they would meet again, and she did indeed get to meet her friend again, except she doesn't remember that Gengar is that friend. Gengar's redemption arc is one of various post-game stories to enjoy. After finishing the main game, you have several other post-game events relating to the legendaries. The art for the friend areas is gorgeous. At first, I didn't like that the partner stops accompanying you after the post-game, but I ended up liking that you could play and roam around town square as any of the other 386 Pokémon. You can legitimately make a living dex consisting of 413 Pokémon total, 385 regular Pokémon, and all 28 unknown forms. There is just enough space in the friend area habitats for one of each Pokémon, and it was encouraged if you wanted to complete the adventure log. All Pokémon joined the team, and all Pokémon were made leaders at least once. Even if you delete the save file, the adventure log stays. As much as I love Red Rescue Team, it is a completionist nightmare. Grinding for the living dex is brutal because there was no experience share across all Pokémon like in the future installments. Almost all evolved Pokémon never join you, so you have to do ludicrous amounts of recruiting, evolving, leveling each of them individually and tracking down all the incredibly specific evolution items. Not only that, you have to raise the IQ of Pokémon that evolve via friendship, which means grinding pages and pages of Goomies for them to consume and increase their IQ. Several Pokémon have very low recruitment rate, including the legendaries. Execute, Chansey, Ponyta, and Kecleon, for example, are a pain to recruit. Execute has a spawn rate of 0.62% on only one floor, floor 14 of the Howling Forest. Not only that, but you have to recruit 2 of them to get executed as well for a complete living dex. I used RNG manipulation with Alakazam to get through Wish Cave just to make the Give Me Something Good wish, aka recruit Kecleon, Chansey and Blissey for me. There is an approximately 1 in 256 chance to spot Munchlax in the town square. The legendaries are also time-consuming to recruit. For instance, the Deoxys dungeon was pretty difficult because of the hunger mechanic and being limited to 3 items in a bag and a held item. To recruit Mewtwo, you have to traverse through all 99 floors of Western Cave twice. Kyogre is a 50% chance of recruiting instead of 100%, so if you don't recruit it the first time, you need to run another 40 floors unless you're using save states. The fastest way to get all Pokemon were made leaders in your adventure log, assuming you've gone through the grind to recruit all of them and evolve them in the first place, is to go to a post-game dungeon like Solar Cave where you can change leaders, give up and get kicked out of the dungeon, and repeat from the top with a new set of 3 Pokemon. You also have to make each separate unknown form a team leader at least once. Honestly, my only real gripes with this game comes from the agony of trying to complete the adventure log. Even with Wondermail, trying to 100% Red Rescue Team is a grind. Nevertheless, Red Rescue Team is a great game. Without it, we wouldn't have the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series that we know today. Explorers of Sky is the first Pokemon game I've actually played. Back then, I was a 9-year-old kid enjoying my happy childhood, carefree without a worry in the world. Playing this game at home and getting to experience a tale of epic proportions. I remember going online around 2010 to see if other people shared my warm sentiments towards this game. Imagine my shock seeing IGN review this game as bad. It was then I realized IGN stands for Inaccurate Gaming News, at least for their review on Explorers of Sky. I was feeling so mad about how much I disagreed with IGN's evaluation, and even now, I'm trying to respect that not everyone will have the same opinion as you. The only criticism I could bring myself to agree with in IGN's review was how baffling it is that there's a 3rd version of the same game, and if you really get down to it, there's no reason why there should be 2 versions in the first place. The rest of IGN's review of Explorers of Sky is questionable. Truthfully, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky is a masterpiece. I would put it in my top 10 video games of all time. It is pure perfection from start to finish. There are so many improvements and quality of life upgrades from Red Rescue Team. The game is a complete, whole, standalone experience. Back in a time when DLC and microtransactions wasn't a scourge plaguing video games, you are only charged once to buy and get the full game. They aren't going out of their way to empty your wallet like old school games when I was a child. I don't know if I'm melodramatic enough to say that Explorers of Sky changed my life, but it's really one of those games that stays with you long after you've completed the game. This is art. There is so much heart. This is what makes life worth living. This game has that Pokemon magic. The sprite work is beautiful as always, and the thing with sprite art is that it ages well. It helps a game stand the test of time. You see the tropes of a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon story being retread here. You, the human, loses their memory and turns into a Pokemon. You meet up with your partner Pokemon, who is going to become your best friend. They open their heart to you, talking of hidden troves full of treasure and strange relics. Uncharted territories veiled in darkness, and new lands just waiting to be discovered. There is a substantial amount of content in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky. A modern Pokemon game nowadays pales in comparison. Explorers of Sky features a 20-chapter epic with a lengthy post-game saga and 5 additional special episodes. Ever since Pokemon X and Y and the move to 3D, the core series Pokemon games do not have that much post-game content. In Explorers of Sky, you get to go on many fantastic realms of adventures. While you train at the Exploration Guild with your partner as recruits, time is stopping in areas like the Tree Shroud Forest because of the time gears being stolen. During the story, you have a sleepover each night, talking and having a heart-to-heart with your partner on hay beds. You also learn that the player character has this ability called the Dimensional Scream, where you get dizzy spells that foreshadow the future or envision the past after you touch something, which is very convenient in advancing the plot. Locations that I adored included Spinder's Cafe, a wonderful shop overflowing with hopes and dreams. I liked seeing Pokémon we recruited hanging out at the table and trying to win big at the recycle shop. I enjoyed the addition of the secret bazaar via hidden stairs. I also enjoyed the lively, bustling nature of Treasure Town. God, I would recreate some parts of the story, like having a guild using toys I had as a kid. Sharpedo Bluff as a hollow chamber in the face of the cliff is a very cool area too. After a few excursions and some sentry duty, Chatot announces a guild's big expedition in Chapter 5. You and your partner work hard so that you can be picked to go onto this very special mission. The OG Team Skull, Skuntank, Coughing, and Zubat joins the guild for a few days to lend their assistance for the expedition. On one night after dinner, Team Skull consumes all of the perfect apples in storage. Chatot makes you replenish the larder. When you're out foraging for food in Apple Woods, Team Skull sabotages you with their noxious gas combo so that you leave empty-handed. You don't have any perfect apples, which is really bad because Guildmaster Wigglytuff is addicted to perfect apples. Wigglytuff gets serious withdrawal symptoms if he doesn't have any perfect apples. Suddenly, Team Skull swoops in with a stolen perfect apple to appease Wigglytuff, making them look better in light of your failure to procure the goods. As a punishment, you miss out on dinner and Chatot tells you and your partner to give up on being chosen as expedition members the next morning. All the while, you and your partner is feeling famished from not eating anything the night before. Fortunately, the guild members are kind-hearted enough to set aside some leftover dinner for you so that you're not hungry. They encourage you to keep doing your best to get chosen for the expedition, even if it means that someone else won't get picked. The day comes where Chatot reads out the names of who the Guildmaster chose to go on the expedition. But Guildmaster Wigglytuff is so based. Everyone ends up going on the big expedition. Despite Team Skull sabotaging you and trying to make you miss out on the opportunity, Guildmaster Wigglytuff decides, it's more fun with more people. The more the merrier. I love the storytelling in this game because the bigger tale of the time gears has been set up in the background while all this had been happening. Before Dusknoir comes in the second half of the main game story at Chapter 10, you are rewarded at the end of your guild's long and challenging expedition. This time, the treasure is a view of Fogbound Lake that comes alive at night. Pretty fireflies are flying around, surrounding the fountain of water and the time gear glowing at the middle of the lake. I'm a hopeless romantic, so something that glows in the darkness can be really beautiful. The stakes start ramping up as you try to capture Grovyle, the thief that has been stealing all the time gears. Dusknoir comes in acting as a good guy, even helping out against Team Skull and their evil schemes. Lots of exposition occurs. Dusknoir explains that both he and Grovyle are Pokemon from the future. He makes up lies saying that Grovyle is a criminal with a large bounty on his head, so travel to the past to avoid capture in the future. After Grovyle arrived in this time, Dusknoir explains that he concocted a plan to bring the world to ruin by stealing all the time gears. When a time gear is removed, the flow of time slows in its region. If the flow of time is slowed down excessively, it will stop entirely and the planet reaches a state of paralysis. Eventually, Dusknoir and Sableye catches Grovyle and they intend to return to the future. But before they go back, they want to say goodbye to everyone in Treasure Town Square. Unexpectedly, Dusknoir grabs a player character and a partner into the dimensional hole and sends them to the dystopian future. Chapter 14 is where you are forced to bear witness to the cold, lifeless and bleak future due to the planet's paralysis. A world of perpetual darkness. The sun never rises, morning never comes, no wind blows, neither spring nor summer ever comes. It would be no exaggeration to call it the complete ruin of the world. The plot thickens. Grovyle is actually a good guy, and it turns out that the planet's paralysis is caused by the collapse of Temporal Tower. When time goes out of whack, Dialga, the Pokemon deity of time, also loses control and reason, being instead governed by darkness. In fact, he is transformed into Primal Dialga, a primordial presence that seeks only self-preservation and preventing history from changing. Grovyle was collecting the time gears to help prevent the planet's paralysis. By putting time gears into the temporal tower, it would reverse the collapse of temporal tower and thus prevent the planet's paralysis. Grovyle explains, while it is true that removing the time gear from a specific place causes time to stop in that area, it would be temporary, and time would be fully restored everywhere once all the time gears are placed in temporal tower. The gang meets up with Celebi and tries to travel back to the past using the passage of time. As the team is cornered by Dusknoir, Sableye, and Primal Dialga himself, Grovyle talks about how his partner is still in the past and will finish the mission for him. But plot twist, you are Grovyle's partner. You turned into a Pokémon and lost your memory because of an accident that you had during time travel. Against all odds, you managed to return to the past thanks to your partner's bravery and quick wit. There are some really wholesome moments in the game, such as a speech from Grovyle to the player character, saying that even if you've lost your memory, you are still friends, and that Grovyle is glad to see you again. This moment where your partner and Grovyle watch the sunrise after being trapped in a dark future. It hits even harder in the special episode where Grovyle and Celebi, really cute Pokemon couple by the way, get to experience the rising sun together, explaining everything that transpired to the Gold Crew and getting their support as they believe your story of time stopping in various places. Wigglytuff and the Gold Crew all help out in the search for the hidden lands, while Grovyle goes back to collect all the time gears. I've mentioned this before, but I like how the NPCs have unique dialogue after significant story events. It helps with the world building. As a trio, you ride on Lapras with the time gears all collected and set out to the temporal tower which is situated in the hidden lands. No one could find the hidden lands because it was hidden in a gap in time itself. Through the Sea of Time is just such a cool cutscene. The journey to the temporal tower is nothing short of epic. One really important revelation is discovered after the team defeats Dusknoir and Sableye. While your partner checks if the Rainbow Stone ship works, Dusknoir explains that if history is changed, the Pokémon of the future will disappear. Since the player character and Grovyle came from a future that will cease to exist, they will both disappear too. The crux of the emotional ending is that you will cease to exist, leaving your partner behind. Hence the final chapter is called The Last Adventure. In a trip up Temporal Tower, you have very uplifting music that conveys resolve and conviction. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon music makes you feel emotions. If it means restoring time and bringing peace to the world, you're prepared to do whatever it takes. Following the aftermath of restoring Temporal Tower, your partner goes to the beach to reminisce about all the good times. In the sunset, feeling nostalgic and cherishing the past. About the memories that they made with their friend. About all the adventures and conversations that they shared with each other. All the things that they've been through all this time. They remember it all fondly. They miss you. Everything thus far is just the main game. The story hasn't finished yet. There is still so much to do in the post-game as well as completing the special episodes. You gotta complete your graduation exam. You have to visit Luminous Springs and defeat every member of the guild, aka the wicked grandmaster of all things bad and their minions. When you visit Luminous Springs, you learn that you and your partner cannot evolve due to the distortion in the fabric of space. Just after time finished going out of whack, now we have space distortions to deal with. After meeting the titular Pokémon for Explorers of Sky, Shaman, in Shaman Village, you unlock the Sky Jukebox. I loved listening to the pieces in the Sky Jukebox as a kid. Next, we save Scizor from his frozen prison and pick up a Wonder Egg from the surrounded sea. The next day, the Wonder Egg hatches into a Manaphy. You and your partner get a taste of parenting and look after baby Manaphy by feeding it blue gummies. A Pokemon's favorite color of gummy correlates to their typing. Water-type Pokemon will have blue gummies as their favorite. As an infant, Manaphy is meant to grow in the sea, not the land. Manaphy becomes sick, causing you to obtain a Fiondew to cure Manaphy. Walrein comes in and takes full responsibility for raising Manaphy since Manaphy needs to develop the ability to survive in the sea. Subsequently, you meet up with Team Charm, who are strong, smart, and beautiful to explore AG's cave. Team Charlie's Angels tells you about how the cave holds a vast trove of treasure. At the end of the exploration, Team OnlyFans leaves you with all the treasure and goes on their next adventure. The final post-game story, before you go on to recruit all the legendaries possible, involves Palkia, the deity that controls space, and the lunar duo, Cresselia and Darkrai. Darkrai is constantly fleeing from Cresselia, saying, "Catch me if you can." The guild informs you about Azuro, who won't wake up and is trapped in a nightmare. You enlist Drowsy's help to see inside Azuro's nightmare. Drowsy is the very first crook that you caught at the start of the game. I think it's poetic that Drowsy was arrested while trying to make Azuro get treasure for him, and now he needs to help that same Azuro wake up from their endless sleep. After visiting Azuro's dream and encountering an illusion of Cresselia made by Darkrai, Palkia himself pays a visit and brings you to his humble abode in Spatial Rift. Palkia tries to get rid of you to stop the spatial distortions, but halts. Treachery is afoot. Cresselia unveils Darkrai as a true criminal mastermind who had been using an illusion of Cresselia to deceive the player, partner, and Palkia. Here is where everything turns on its head. The player and the partner Pokemon prevented the collapse of Temporal Tower. But who was really the one that put the ruin of Temporal Tower in motion? Who was it that really sought to put the planet into paralysis? It was none other than Darkrai. His wish is to engulf the world in darkness. Darkrai was the reason the player had an accident while traveling through time, leading to the protagonist losing their memory and turning into a Pokemon. In the final fight, Darkrai tries to persuade you into joining his side. When that failed, he ambushes you with several Pokemon. Cresselia eats up so many Reviver Seeds, it's not even funny how much you have to carry the team. After the fight, Darkrai tries to escape via a dimensional hole. But Palkia comes in, attacks Darkrai just as he was entering the dimensional hole and time traveling, making it likely for Darkrai to develop amnesia the same way the player character did. Manaphy comes back having grown strong and healthy in the sea after you finish Darkrai off, completing the post-game stories. 5 special episodes are unlocked as you progress through the story. Here is my personal ranking of these episodes. At 5th place is today's Oh My Gosh. It's not as memorable as the other special episodes, but it does give some background into the other guild members, particularly the relationship between Sunflora and Loudred. At 4th place for me is Here Comes Team Charm. It's a standard exploration adventure looking for treasure. I always found it funny how Team Powerpuff Girls acts like pillar men and styles on Graveler before taking away all the treasure. Their special episode title is even fancier than all the other special episode titles. Random observation, all of Team Charm's members have Mega Evolutions. Mega Lopunny, Mega Medicham, Mega Gardevoir. Overall, Here Comes Team Charm is a solid addition to the lore. In 3rd place is Bidoof's Wish. It's a good story. The part I adore the most is the message that it conveys at the end. Bidoof's dream is to become the best explorer ever. At first, he thought he'd go to Wish Cave to ask Jirachi to grant his wish and make his dream come true for him. He gives up on that plan because he came to see that it's not something you can wish for. You have to work hard, do your best, put in the effort to really feel like a worthy explorer, have lots of experiences, lots of feelings and memories. That's how you learn, grow, and get better, little by little. Bidoof could have taken the easy way out and got his wish to become the best explorer granted, but he chooses to do the morally right thing. The dreams you realize with your own abilities are the real dreams. There's much to be said for relying on one's own abilities. One really funny moment is where the guildmaster stops the other members of the guild from proceeding further in Wish Cave, saying that it's Bidoof's exploration, it's his adventure to finish. Once alerted that he could wish for all the perfect apples in the world, he goes ahead in an attempt to continue the exploration himself. Second place is Igglybuff the Prodigy, which just tugs at your heartstrings. Igglybuff is so comically overpowered because his mom feeds him IQ-increasing gummies. It's kinda hilarious how happy-go-lucky Igglybuff is. We see the awe-inspiring background of Guildmaster Wigglytuff, the relationship between Master and Junior exploring the world and going on adventures. Armador being an outlaw makes the story even more beautiful. It's not just a story of how Wigglytuff's career as an explorer began, but also a redemption of Armador's character, his journey from being an outlaw to becoming a good Pokémon thanks to Igglybuff. At the end of the special episode, Armador would have answered for his crimes and be set free, meeting up with Igglybuff and having more great adventures. In the Future of Darkness is easily the best special episode that continues the events of the main story. It expands upon the characters Grovyle, Celebi, and Dusknoir. It's a longer special episode for good reasons, having memorable scenes and great boss battles. Dusknoir probably gets the most character development. At the heart of Dusknoir's motivation is a desire to not disappear. Even though Grovyle and Celebi know that changing history means that their very existence will end, they are willing to change history for the sake of everyone else in the future. Those of the future would be given the gift of new life. As they press through the dungeons, Dusknoir and Grovyle talk about the philosophical meaning of what it means to be alive. Grovyle says this really inspirational quote, "The important thing is not how long you live, it's what you accomplish with your life. While I live, I want to shine. I want to prove that I exist. If I could do something really important, that would definitely carry on into the future. And so, if I were to disappear, I think that all I have accomplished will go on. That is, that would mean that it's living, right?" This scene where Grovyle stands just in front of the icicles trying to save Celebi, and then having this overpowering, dreadful gut feeling that something here is very severely wrong. The screen distorts in a very scary manner within a split fraction of a second. Dusknoir has set up a trap. Dusknoir tries to melt away Grovyle's spirit, using the electrical discharge of the 4 ice pillars, leaving an empty shell of a body for him to inhabit. His plan was to travel back to the past to prevent the player character and a partner from changing history. The body would be Grovyle's, but the consciousness would be Dusknoir's. Thinking about Grovyle's words about his shining spirit, Dusknoir has a change in heart. Primal Dialga comes in and pummels Dusknoir personally, and you get to see the immense loyalty Sableye has towards Master Dusknoir. Tsundere Celebi is kawaii AF, like I totally ship Grovyle and Shiny Celebi together. The final fight to the finish, where the trio battle Primal Dialga, is incredibly satisfying. It's almost euphoric after everything that has transpired throughout the story, in a future engulfed by perpetual darkness. Being able to see the morning sunrise and shower the world with warmth and light, you can't help but think, wow, this is stunning. Life is beautiful and amazingly wonderful. This game is simply sublime. Ultimately, the story has a happy ending that finishes on a supremely high note. Gates to Infinity is a decent game. It's no Explorers of Sky, but it's still a very solid product, with its emotional highs especially near the end. I'm very happy to have played it, and I respectfully disagree with everyone who said it was a terrible game. Part of me tried to hate Gates to Infinity, but when I tried to take a purely objective view of the game itself, I realized it did so much right, especially with its game mechanics. Removal of game hunger worked to the game's advantage. No gummy or IQ mechanics means less tedious grinding. Traps break just after activating once. Shared move leveling is an awesome fun addition, and team-wide experience share is a necessary quality of life improvement. All of your Pokemon gain experience as you adventure dungeons, including those at the camp, and they all gain the levels ups as soon as they enter a dungeon. Customization is always fun, so the building our own town feature and deciding the locations of all the shops is nice. While the story didn't nearly pick up until Glacier Palace, I felt it started to capture the old Pokemon Mystery Dungeon magic of previous games. Sky had 20 chapters, an epic of a sizable post-credit story for those who didn't want the adventure to end too soon, 5 special episodes, with In the Future of Darkness being particularly moving with a perfect conclusion to such a long and meaningful game, bonus dungeons, such as a quest for 7 instruments. A game so filled with content, it was astounding how they fit it all into that tiny cartridge without exploding. Gates to Infinity is basically a 10-hour game stretched to take 24 hours to complete, as the game designers saw fit to artificially slow down the pace of the game to increase the play length. The dialogue, all of it is completely unskippable, and there is no way to speed it up. Long cutscenes are time-consuming as you watch the text type itself out at such a slow pace. They removed another important fun feature, doing multiple jobs for a single dungeon run, further artificially inflating play length. One job, one run, measly rewards. The jobs don't stack. Another significant criticism is the lack of Pokémon. PMD3 has all the Unova Pokémon and a handful of fan favorites from previous generations. A total of 144 Pokémon can be recruited, and you are limited to 5 starter choices from 20 previously. On another note, they took out escort missions, which was amazing. You can save so many Reviver Seeds. I always liked how they showed a layout of the mystery dungeon at the start with the different floors or levels in a dungeon. In this story, you're not the only human to go to the Pokemon world. You are one of many, but you're the one who makes it the furthest. Muna had been targeting humans turned into Pokemon and defeating them utterly. Also, when you return to the human world, you actually stay away for a while, unlike Rescue Team and Explorers, even if Explorers has a small time skip. Unlike the previous games, the enemy is not a Pokemon, it is an entity known as Bitter Cold. Bitter Cold is a manifestation of all the negative emotions of Pokemon: distrust, despair, hopelessness. A dense fog culminating from these negative emotions surrounds the Bitter Cold. If a Pokemon gets too close to the Bitter Cold, its spirit will be overwhelmed by its negative power, a power so crushing that it is difficult even to breathe. No Pokemon can destroy Bitter Cold, so they sought a human's help, as humans wouldn't be as affected by the negativity. Gates to Infinity directly addresses the whole "you are originally a human" dilemma. Once you defeat Bitter Cold, you need to be sent back to the human world. The long-term presence of a human in this world is not possible because it would create a distortion that would strain the very fabric of the universe. At the end, the partner makes a wish for you to be able to travel freely between the human and Pokemon worlds. No other mystery dungeon game solves or addresses the whole human becoming a Pokemon predicament. In the other games, the player ends up staying in the Pokemon world permanently instead of returning to the human world. As a human, you would have friends and family that care about you, and if you were always a Pokemon, you would be forsaking them. The people that care about you would be worried sick. Bringing you back to the Pokemon world could be inconsiderate, and you'd miss the human world. Being able to traverse freely between being a Pokemon and being a human is much more considerate and thoughtful than just being forced to stay as a Pokemon and never returning to being a human being, which you originally are. It's not that the game itself was terribly bad, it's more that Gates to Infinity just paled in comparison to its outstanding predecessors. All in all, playable game. Let's start with the best part of Super Mystery Dungeon, the gameplay. The first time I played through Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Super, there was a huge difficulty curve. I was so used to the first 2 Mystery Dungeon games where you can power through and brute force everything with raw strength. But after giving it another chance, playing through the game in its entirety, I've come to appreciate the gameplay mechanics more. It's a different playstyle. Turns out, wands and Emeras are really broken. For longer dungeons, i.e. more than 15 floors, you want to stack as many OP Emeras as you can and power creep the dungeon. I found it hardest at the start of the dungeon, where you pray to RNGesus for good Emeras. It gets easier in the later floors of the dungeons. Always bring Reviver Seeds. You don't know when, e.g. a Beedrill uses Tornado and one-shots you. I usually brought a whole page of Reviver Seeds, or 8 Reviver Seeds for good measure. You have to play dirty by abusing items like no tomorrow. Overpowered Emeras. Ally Reviver. There is no range. There is no limit. It's pretty much infinite Reviver Seeds for your allies and single-handedly got me through Destiny Tower 99 floors. Stair Locator. It's not like Sky where you get hints where the floor is when you get the IQ skill. It straight up shows you where that orange square is every floor. It's basically free gilding wands. Sleepers. Lullaby, Sleep Payback, very good. Confusers. Dizzying Stare, Dizzying Payback, also good. Barrage. Attack twice in one time. If you're using multi-hit moves like Rollout, then all the better. Better Odds. Complements Barrage very well, still incredibly broken on its own. You basically get a free critical every time your PP is at an even or odd number. PP Restorer, necessary for long dungeons where elixirs are scarce. Type Bulldozer, the enemy doesn't need resistances and immunities. Huge Meal, slows barely decrease, immensely useful. Wand Expert, good when wand spamming when moves aren't strong enough. Absorption, another relatively rare but good Emera where you heal after killing an enemy. Replace these Emeras where possible. Poison, Sleep, Paralysis Guard, they take up slots when status immunity and berry power can cover all those status conditions. Go for broke, trashed this Emera every time. Things nobody tells you to recruit them all. Look at the connection orb for traveling Pokemon. When you have no more missions, check the connection orb and it should tell you the location of up to 2 traveling Pokemon. Once you connect those, you may get more rescue missions. You also need to revisit Serene Village via Water Continent. Just go to the place where you go for dungeons but choose Serene Village. Riolu is also in a cafe to recruit, so revisit Serene Village later to get Riolu. Recruiting certain shops and NPCs depends on the number of connections you have when you talk to them again. You get Lapras at 100, Kangaskhan at 200, Cofagrigus at 250, Meowth at 300, Holucha at 400, Klefki at 500, Xerneas at 600, and Kecleon at 750. You also have to be in a post-game, so make sure you've beaten the final boss. For Klefki, once you unlock him, he will offer to open multiple treasure boxes at once. For Kecleon, once you unlock him, he will sell treasures as well, though it's more a second page of goods to me, unless you're trying to buy the TMs that will never run out. Find Xerneas via the Tree of Life. Mission-wise, Pokemon that try to run away when attacked. Quarter ones and 2-edged ones are the best. These reduce the enemy Pokemon HP to a quarter HP and 1 HP, but your HP is halved, respectively. Otherwise, moves that hit the whole room or like 4 tiles away will do the job. Healing Pokemon. I found Luminous Orbs to be handy here. If unavailable, just walk around, switch leaders and check teammates. You'll find a traveling Pokemon eventually. I set allies' tactic to go the other way. When they find the stairs, switch to them, go to next floor. This makes traversing dungeons faster. Give item, Oranberry, Rawstberry, Eyedrop Seed, etc. to Pokemon. The item will be on the floor that the Pokemon is in, so even if you don't have the item, you will be able to finish the mission, unlike e.g. Sky. If you don't have the item prepared in your inventory or lose the item, you can't guarantee the mission to be completed. Give an apple to these fainted Pokemon. You just need to go through every room until you find a fainted Pokemon. They won't move around like the healers. I often found that apples were right next to the fainted Pokemon, and I presume that if you didn't have an apple in your inventory, then it would be somewhere on the floor. I avoided escort missions in Sky because the AIs would constantly be a burden and at level 5 or so. Also, another quality of life improvement is being able to escape the dungeon if you miss the escape option a first time round. Just find the stairs and you'll be prompted to leave if there's nothing else in the dungeon. Whereas in Rescue Team and Sky, if you accidentally miss the escape dungeon option after completing the mission, you have to use an escape orb or dredge through the entire dungeon. The cameos and fan service. Seeing Duskull in Persian, the OG Moneybank Pokémon, Celebi and her crush on Grovyle, the crew from Gates to Infinity, Quagsire with his I punish evildoers speech, etc, etc. Super really feels like the final mystery dungeon game because of all these cameos and the way it ties together characters from the previous 3 entries. It's advertised as a definitive Pokemon mystery dungeon game, having all 720 Pokemon, 779 if you include variants. Story-wise, the twist of making Mew the one to leave at the end felt forced to me, but understandable from the developer or writer's standpoint. They've done this plot 3 times over now. They gotta change it up the 4th time round. There's a few tropes that they seem to repeat. A partner Pokemon with a dream. A character that appears good but is secretly evil. Gengar, Dusknoir, Munna, Nuzleaf. A character that appears evil but is actually good. Absol, Grovyle, Hydreigon, Beheeyem. Fake legendary, Groudon, Giratina. I feel that I have played everything this game has to offer, getting 100% on a connection orb and completing all the dungeons. For me, I did not like the story or the partner in this game. Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon might have the best gameplay, but the reason Mystery Dungeon is incredibly popular is not because of its gameplay, but its story and characters, which Super did not deliver on for me. I personally found the partner Pokemon to be insufferable. You go to Poke School for kindergarten in the first half of the game. You are constantly patronized for the whole kindergarten school part as the game continuously reminds you that you're a kid. I did not like that the player character felt more like the partner's sidekick as opposed to a main character. Another thing I found missing in Super Mystery Dungeon was the feeling that it's your own adventure. Rescue Team and Sky did that wonderfully. It always felt like it was about you and your partner making it in the world. Everyone else was just friends that helped out sometimes. The partner is actually the hero. Oh, you're there too, I guess. Personally speaking, it felt like they were putting in the partner leaving twist for the sake of having a twist, and not because it made sense. The way that the story makes your character makes you feel like an afterthought compared to the partner. You being a human is not acknowledged in Super. If anything, Gates to Infinity is the one that acknowledged the human becoming a Pokemon part the most. Your hero never even finds out why they're in the Pokemon world themselves. You never go home, you never return to the human world or get your memories back. That resolution in Gates to Infinity, which puts thought and consideration on the player's circumstances as a human-turned Pokemon, is completely absent in Super. In Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon, there is no point in evolving a Pokemon. You can only recruit one of each to get a living dex. If you evolved a Pokemon, you would lose that species forever. Your team is in constant flux because of motivation, which locks you out of your favorite members, being a complete sucker punch to anyone's favorite setup. Not to mention the lack of replayability and the endgame feeling soulless or purposeless. The post-game is extremely short and uneventful. There is no special stories behind anything, it's just over. Difficulty-wise, the game really wants you to use items. It's hard if you don't use items because of the awful difficulty balancing and the mean-spirited RNG, the likes of which have never been seen before in the series. This part of the plot where Pokemon were being turned to stone was so much more interesting than the school portion. My favorite part of the story would definitely be the Voidlands due to the high stakes. By and large, the story's antagonist is a rehash of Gates to Infinity, of which Gates to Infinity did better. Bitter Cold being an entity of negativity and hopelessness with 2 phases, and Dark Matter being another entity of bleakness and despair with 2 phases. Super Mystery Dungeon is definitely my least favorite mystery dungeon, and I say this as a completionist. However, I liked the fan service, seeing the cameos from the previous Mystery Dungeon series. Filling out the connection orb completely takes a while, but once it's done, the whole game is done. 100%ing the connection orb makes me think about the concept of the 6 degrees of separation. This idea is that all people are 6 or fewer social connections away from each other. Consequently, a chain of a friend statements can be made to connect any 2 people in a maximum of 6 steps. I'm happy I didn't skip Gates to Infinity because I could catch all the references. Once you've recruited every Pokémon and completed every dungeon, there is literally nothing more to do in the game. To conclude Pokémon Mystery Dungeon Retrospective, I ranked the Mystery Dungeon games in this order: Explorers of Sky, Red Rescue Team, Gates to Infinity, and then Super Mystery Dungeon. These are my personal opinions from someone who has played these Pokémon Mystery Dungeon games to death, playing through and experiencing all the main game and post-game content. Pokémon Mystery Dungeon is part of my childhood. Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Thank you for all the good memories.